Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Blue Sunday. I'm your host, Bangkok Joe, who happens to be residing in sunny Melbourne. And joining me, as usual, is former president of the Carltonians, life member of the Carlton Football Club, Mr. Vince Loccisano. Good evening, Vince. How are you tonight?
Welcome back to Melbourne, Australia, Joseph. Nice to have you back with us, and you must be so rapt that you came back for the finals.
And the weather.
I
the
tell you what,
expensive-
you've got the same interior decorator in Melbourne as you have in Thailand by the looks of that background you've got.
My sister and I use the same interior design company. You can see that she's got the same piano, same couch, same windows. So, if you go to my nieces, she'd be the same. Vince, very disappointing.
The sound and tone of your voice in that introduction was about as enthusiastic as what Carlton were in the first half of last night's game. But
we'll get onto that in a minute. We'll get onto that.
Anyway,
hey,
all right.
Let's get the admin rubbish out the way, and then we'll get David in, and we'll talk about the game.
The admin rubbish.
Okay. Well, that's what it is, because people don't want to see this. They want to listen to David and you and myself discuss the show. Anyway, as everyone knows, we're a social media beast. You'll find us at Facebook, at Blue Sunday, and at The Jumper Punch. And if you are watching on YouTube, you are watching us on at The Jumper Punch channel. Please, everybody, like, share, and subscribe. We rely on your input, and the more people that watch, the better we think the product becomes. Hang on, I've done something here. Got to get back. I was going through the thing. As everyone knows, the show is proudly sponsored by my touring company, Retired Working For You. You can find us at rw4utours.com. And if you want to email me, please, info@rw4utours.com. I don't think I need to tell people, but we specialise in tours of Thailand, as you can see up on the screen. Lastly, but not lastly, Vince.
But not leastly.
Least but not last, one of them. We encourage people to put up comments. I've got a heap of comments that I'll put up. I'll get to you. We'll try and get to every question that you people may put up. We understand that there may be a few upset people, but please try and not make it personal. I know some people are very anti the coach and certain players. At the end of the day, remember, they are representing the Carlton Football Club, and we are Carlton Football Club supporters. Vince, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the one and only, everyone's been waiting, Mr. David Rhys-Jones. How are you, David?
Flat as a biggie, hey? How do you reckon I am? I'm like everyone else, very, very disappointed with that performance last night. It just it was I actually got up in the second quarter and started doing some dishes. That's how bad it was.
Same here.
I couldn't look at it. And
it was disgraceful, wasn't it?
It was terrible. It was there was there was nothing. There was just nothing from anyone, and no spark was happening. It was just chasing tails, and we couldn't get our hands on the ball. And you got to give credit to the Lions, but you look at every single game in the finals, it's gone up a notch. And if you're not ready for that, we should have learnt last year. We weathered the storm last year. We were able to compete, but that was terrible. I think bringing 6 players back's too much in one hit sort of thing. They weren't ready. You go through the blokes who did come back in, and probably De Conning, who sat in the bench for a quarter and a half, had more influence out there than any of the other 5. So, disappointing. But it's been one of those years. And I think, when you start talking about, bringing 6 players out, back in and leaving out the young guys who lifted and performed when we had a massive injury list, and we had the same blokes come back in. That's what was happening. And I think when you really look at it, they call it selection integrity. We just haven't had that all year, and players who've been in form in the seconds haven't been rewarded, and the players who've been disappointing in the seniors haven't been dropped. So the selection integrity is just not there, and I think that's shown right throughout the year. I think that's been a big part of it.
And I think anyway, that this puts it up. That was a shit show to say the least. Anyway, there are many comments and people. I'll try and get to you all, but they're flooding through. Vince, let's go through the scores. I'll leave it to you, and I'll keep putting comments up.
Okay, well, as you can see there, the final scores were Brisbane 14-15, 99 to Carlton 11-5, 71. A very flattering 28-point margin, flattering to us, that is. I thought, I mean, when you look at the scoring shots for starters, 29 to 16, that tells you everything. They squandered shots for goal again, and I dare say if they keep doing this, it's been a trait of theirs pretty much all year, but if they keep doing this, they're going to come undone. If it's not next week, it'll be the week after, unless they can improve how they make the most of their scoring opportunities. But look, I mean, you can see their first quarter, 5 goals, 5 to zip. I mean, that already gave you an indication as to where the game was at by quarter time. And nothing changed. When you were looking for something to change in the second quarter, it didn't. At one stage, Brisbane were 9 goals, 660, and Carlton was still yet to score. And we're looking at potentially actually rewriting records. If there's another 4 minutes that had gone by without scoring, we would have had that record, which is over 100 years old, of not having scored at all in the first half. I think there was a team back in 1900 and something or other, 1906 or
1903.
1903, was it? There you go. 121
and it was by
years ago
Fitzroy.
since that had been done. But as it turns out, we actually had 2 or 3 good scoring opportunities. We took the first couple towards the end of that second quarter. We had another one with Harry Mackay on a set shot just before half time, and he missed it, and that was very deflating too. So Brisbane went in with a 35-point lead there at the quarter time, and then a 48-point margin at half time, 61 to 13. And then Carlton got a bit of a run on again, just to sort of, I guess, take that little bit of momentum that they stole at the end of the second quarter, kick the first 3 goals of the third, I should say, and started to bring the margin back. But then Brisbane steadied, and in fact, those 3 goals were scored in the first, I think, 8 or 9 minutes of the third quarter, and then Carlton failed to score another one for the rest of the quarter. Brisbane seemed to dominate, but again squandered scoring opportunities. They went in with a 40-point lead at 3-quarter time, and even then you just knew that it was going to be a bridge too far. We did kick 6 goals to 4 in the last, but there were a lot of junk time goals. There was a couple of lucky free kicks even in the end. So I think the scoreboard flattered us. The game was well and truly over. Anyone who wants to take any solace out of what happened in the last quarter, I think, is delusional, frankly. That was an absolute disgraceful performance in the first half from any Carlton team I've ever seen. I've never witnessed a final that demoralising in terms of, when the game was there to be won, everyone, bar none, went missing. And it was only, Cripps really in the end that sort of made the most of a couple of opportunities at the end of the second quarter. The second half,
Vince,
neither here nor
you're talking about the game. I only wanted you to do the scores and then the stats.
Oh, sorry.
You can have your say later.
Well, I was just sort of.
No, you were going on, please.
Okay, righto. So we've got the stats there. As you can see, disposals 354 to 330. We actually had more of the ball. We had a lot more handballs. They had more kicks, 213 to 200, but we had 154 handballs to 117. So we actually had more of the ball, funnily enough. They had considerably more marks, and especially contested marks, 18 to 12. Marks inside 50, they dominated here, 20 to 10. That really told a big story. Clearances, fairly even, 37 to 35, although Brisbane had the better of the centre clearances, 14 to 10. 1%ers, again, they did all those little things, especially in that first half, 39-24. Tackles, they out-tackled us badly on the night. For Carlton, we only had 42 tackles in the whole night. Just that told another story, 65-42. The pressure count wouldn't have been very high at all, I wouldn't have thought, especially in the first half. Inside 50 efficiency, they were far better at creating scoring opportunities from their inside 50s. 59% of the time they got a score. We only got a score 36% of the time. Shooting accuracy, that's where they let themselves down, 48%, whereas we went at 69. Thank God we did kick accurately, otherwise it would have been even worse. And time in front, well, the entire match Brisbane was in front, all 124 minutes of it. And their biggest lead was 60 points, as I said earlier, 9 goals, 660-0 at the 24-minute mark of the second quarter before we got a score. So there's the statistical differences between the sides and, really one-way traffic in terms of when the game was there to be won, and then when they got that big lead, it was always going to be a mountain to climb, wasn't it, Rhys?
Yeah, it was. You bring in players who are underdone, and they weren't ready for it. And as I said before, full credit to the Lions. They come out and played a final as you should play a final, and the heat's got to be on right from the start.
Yeah.
The one thing I was looking for, especially early in the game, was the pressure that we applied to the opposition, and it was non-existent. Very disappointing. Just very, very disappointing match, and disappointing way to bow out. And hopefully it puts a sting in them. Last year they were sort of clapped off the ground at the Gabba. I was there, and I'm not a big one on clapping players off the ground after you get beaten, but maybe. And although I accepted it back then and thought, well, fair enough, they've had a pretty good final series, but I was listening to people from Hawthorn the other day, and it was Sam Mitchell was talking about, it's premiership or nothing for them, and that's the way they think. They were 0-5, but that's the way the Hawthorn think. That's the way we used to think. It's premiership or nothing. If you don't win a premiership, it's a waste of a year. And we're going to get that attitude back. Hawthorn have got it at the moment, and they could, very easily take it off because they're playing as well as anyone. So you got to have that mindset. You just got to have that mindset that you go out there to win, and there's no second prizes come this time of year, especially when you're sitting in 8th position. And look, I think if you want to make excuses, bringing 6 players back in, it's a third of your team. It makes it bloody difficult. All coming back from various injuries and obviously not, it means that with that bye, they've missed a couple of weeks. They've missed quite a few weeks sort of thing. So the blokes have been injured for 2 weeks beforehand or 3 weeks beforehand. It's 4 or 5 weeks that they've really been out of footy. So, not battle hardened and ready to go at it, but you can at least have a crack. That's all I'll say is just get in there and what did John Kennedy say? Just do something. Get out there, do something. Walshy used to say, just bowl someone over, knock someone over, tackle someone, do something. Don't go through it. Just do nothing and accept it. So, I'm as disappointed as anyone after all that, but hopefully the players get they'll go through their reviews this week, and hopefully they're pretty honest reviews because they have to be with quite a number of these players because if we're going to go anywhere, they're going to get better. We need players to improve, and they need to suck it in over summer, and I'd be showing them tapes and what they've done, where they need to improve and go through the whole lot because they don't do that. We've got a squad that we think can win a premiership, and I think it needs to be added to. I think we need some pace in there. We need some pace around the ball. They're all plotters, they're all plotters in there, and that's not taking anything away. They've got good match-winning abilities, and Cripper and these blokes and Walshy and so forth. And I thought George Short was good. I thought, but we just we haven't got guys who've got much passion out there when they're playing, and it's all right when things are going well for us, but I'd like to see blokes getting a bit dirty and even having a crack at each other out there, you can do. We used to do it. We used to fire blokes up and you can have a crack at blokes and say, look, come on, pull your finger out. You're just not going, or whatever's happening. That's where leaders have got to come into it, and they get their review this week. If they, if it's all sugar coated, it's not going to do us any good at all.
David, I asked you off air, and I'll ask you on air. Did you think that Michael Voss got out-coached, and what could he have done differently?
Oh, look, I think we've been out-coached quite a number of times this year, and we don't do anything differently. We don't do anything differently. That's become the problem. When we did was when we had all our players out and we had to put Kemp down to the forward line, and we had to change things about. That was forced on us. We come to the final and we go back to what we were doing, which was failing, and which every other club had worked out. So, yeah, definitely out-coached, because what surprise did we throw out there? What? Well,
we didn't play Sincotta. That's the first thing, did we?
Actually, we didn't play Sincotta. We didn't play. I would have played Moya. I think that kid's got some tricks. I think he can play. So I would have played him. I wouldn't have played
Lord.
Maybe Lord, maybe Binns. But how's their confidence? They get dragged in because they're the last standing sort of thing. That's how I'd take it. They're the last men standing, and especially Jackson Binns, who picks up, he could win the medal in the reserves comp. He's played that well this year, and not get only gets a game when we're depleted. So and then as soon as the soldiers come back, he's out the door again. So if I was him, I'd be looking elsewhere. I don't think there's going to be much faith shown in him at Carlton, which is disappointing. And I think that selection integrity and the you need to have a strong reserve set up. And I know we've been depleted in our reserves this year because of the injuries and everything that's affected us this year. But if blokes are playing well, and you've got blokes who are not playing well in the seniors, you just got to make the hard decisions. You got to dump blokes. None of our blokes got dumped. They were on the. Well, actually, George Hewitt got dumped. How that happened? 3 or 4 weeks ago, or whatever it was, had me baffled. And Fantasia must have. I don't know. He must have photos of something.
Apparently, he's good mate. Apparently, he's good mates with Voss. Apparently, from Port days.
Jeez, I think there must be more than that, but
might be lovers.
Well, who knows these days? I mean,
he might have some dirt on him, I think.
Well, who knows? But anyway, and we shouldn't be disparaging players like that. But you just wonder about selection and the selection integrity that we just haven't had all year. And I think that. I think the football department need to do some sort of review and look at that season. And obviously they went through the injury stuff a little while back, but they need to go back to basics. And I just think we need to let players off the leash a bit too. Let them play football. They seem to be robots out there and not. Not showing in any of their own individual flair. And it wasn't until we had all the players out and we went over to West Coast and we're thinking we're going to get thumped by West Coast. And, we see a couple of sparks there and go, geez, we got some, do things differently, and it can entirely change the way you go about it. But
first time we were unpredictable.
Yep. And look, the guys have, yeah, and you got to have some sort of unpredictability because it's just so easy for the opposition to pick us apart, and they did. Zorko and Andrews just sat across that back line and
just took intercept mark.
They just laughed their head off, and
Ryan Lester too. He was taking intercept marks and flying for marks. They were reminiscent of Lever and May at Melbourne, to be honest. The way they were getting that many intercept marks in the first half, unbelievable.
And we need to look to someone. We need to go out and really look hard for someone to help Jacob Wiedering back there because we need another tall defender, and McGovern's not going to be that one. We need a strong. McGovern will do a job back there. He's going to be okay back there, but we need to source a defender, a good, strong, hard at it, defender, and I think you've got to go to players and just say to them, look, we're on the cusp of it, but we need someone like you, and you look at, there could be some blokes that, other clubs who 28, 29, hard fit, tough player, get them in.
Rumor has it that we're going after the GWS defender that got dropped for the final. Haynes.
Yeah, Haynes.
Yeah.
Nick Haynes. Now he played pretty awfully the previous week, I think, and that's why they dropped him.
Well, but we'll put it this way, and then they'll probably end up getting someone like that. But that's not aiming high enough. You need to be bold. Melbourne did it with they looked at it and said, geez,
Stephen May.
Our backline's just non-existent. We need to get some players. They got May and Lever and won a premiership. And clubs being bold and going out getting the right people. It's all right identifying where we're deficient, but don't just get someone for the sake of it either. I mean,
might help if you.
Lewis Young actually did it right last night, which
it was okay.
Was a little bit surprising, but he performed quite well. But I don't think he's the answer either. So,
well, I mean, why don't we invest in our youth either? Draft someone.
What I was going to say too, Joe, just to follow on from what Joe's saying.
Yeah,
when was the last time Carlton had a Rising Star nomination? I can't remember. Do you remember who was our last Rising Star nomination?
But they don't. Ollie Hollands would have been, but he would have been the only one. But
maybe last year. Yeah,
last year. Yeah. We didn't have one this year.
No, we wouldn't. But we didn't play anyone.
That's right.
But we just didn't play anyone, and then you start looking at the recruiting, and you start going, well, geez, our recruiters, they haven't recruited that they've missed the boat on. But then when they do play them, when we do get a Lord and a Binns and a Moyer, and we go, geez, these kids aren't bad. Give them a crack. Why didn't we see them earlier in the season when when we need them? And you need to put young people into we continually just turned over the same names every single week, and the same ones come in, the same ones, not the same ones went out because we had injuries and so forth, but it was always bringing the same people back in. It wasn't. There was no variation, and we, we're just so predictable that teams have worked us out, probably before the season started, and just said, "Well, this is the way they play." They haven't got a B game or anything. They just play this way, and they're always going to play this way, and this is the way we'll beat them.
David, what did you think when you saw TDK as the sub? What was your initial thought?
I couldn't understand it. Well, the only thing I thought then was he's not ready to go for 100 minutes. Is the first thing I thought, and the first thing I thought after that is, well, why would you play him? I mean, why would you play him? You need players who are going to be out there. Someone could have, Doc could have done his knee in the first minute or two of the game.
Yeah,
he's on the ground. So I mean.
They rolled the dice in that many ways, didn't they? They really took some risks.
I would have preferred to see Doc as the sub, to be honest.
The sub.
I think, bringing him onto the ground would have, had a lot more impact. Look, TDK was good when he come on. He battled hard, but he didn't look quite right either. So
no,
yeah, none of those players who come back. I don't think any of them really did too much to impact the game. And if it wasn't for Hewitt and Cripper, I thought they were the two standouts. And then after that, throw a dart at who you're going to pick for your third.
I thought Nick Newman played well. He's been pretty consistent all year.
Yeah, he is
special.
Look, I like Nick Newman because he has a bit of a. He's one of those players who does do something. He'll throw his weight around. He'll niggle an opponent or do something or start a fight or whatever you have to do. But at least he's doing something. Geez, that poor old Lockie Neal run into his elbow too. That happened to me a few times. run into the wrong spot, and but I don't mind that. He copped a fine for it, which is
that's okay.
Yeah, he'll pay the fine, and good on. And he's been terrific this year, actually, Nick Newman. I thought he might have been a sneaky chance of getting all Australian. I think he's been very, very consistent this year, and I think you'll see him I think he finished third in the best and fairest last year, and I think you'll see him very close to Cripper again this year. Well, Cripper should win it pretty easily, but he'd be the next best, I think.
He'd be winning a good couple of best clubman awards, I would have thought, Nick Newman.
Yep. I got no doubt he'll be in line for
maybe even a Spirit of Carlton award.
Well, don't preempt anything, but definitely.
I'm talking about the one that you present at the best and fairest presentation. Yeah,
yes. No, that's
to be right up there anyway. The other ends. By the way, we'll just get your views on the other ends for the night. Obviously, Harry Mackay was one of the 6 inclusions. Yeah. He ended up kicking 3 goals, 1, but geez, when the game was there to be won and he had to take marks, he dropped easy marks, he missed easy shots.
Fumbled.
It was a real flattering result to look at 3 goals, 1 next to his name at the end of the night, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, and early, big blokes, if you're not going to mark it, you've got to bring it down to the deck, and he need to impose himself, and he's such a big man, and you just, you wish he had, the sort of intestinal fortitude of a Mark McClure or Sticks Kernahan or something, and just take bodies out or whatever. You just got to be hard at it, and or
an Earl Spalding is another one.
Exactly, coming through and just cleaning up packs. He's big enough to do that, and he can do it fairly too. You do it just big body. But you need to have. That's got to be part of your makeup too, and probably not part.
What about another one that came back, McGovern? What did you make of his game?
Yeah, done some good things, and looks good at times, but I just think I think if we get another big defender.
He's not an imposing centre half back, is he? He's not the sort of centre half back you can look at and say, there's a Rock of Gibraltar type player, whereas Wiedering has got that.
Yeah, Wiedering plays with a fair bit more courage too. So, and you need that on the back line. You need to be fearless back there. So, not all of you have to be, but you need your key men to be strong back there. So,
the other tall one that came back was Tom De Koning. We've mentioned him already. Pretty brave to come back the way he did. He was on, but by I think about the 9 or 10 minute mark of the second quarter. So he did play almost 3/4 of the game and battled on manfully, wasn't he? Didn't look fit, didn't look match hardened, but he did provide a bit of a spark in the middle there, didn't he?
But he's got a bit of ticker. Yeah, he has got a bit of ticker. He has a go, and
I reckon he's actually been the best story of the year for us. I honestly think Tom De Koning has been the most improved player on our list in 2024. That's my
easy
feeling.
That's no competition.
He's taken a lot more responsibility this year in the ruck, and he's imposed himself in games where we've won. And he's been, I think, the most influential player on the ground. And when he went out injured a few weeks ago, I think it was against North Melbourne, he might have got injured. That really did put a massive dent in our finals chances.
Well,
and Chincotta, Vince.
I thought
not so much Chincotta.
I thought Pitnet was getting dominated early by McInerney, and but as soon as TDK come back on, I thought Pitnet wasn't too bad. He ended up going back and kicking a couple of goals at the end, a couple of cheap ones at the end, but he looked a lot better. So I don't know how you read that, but TDK he's going to be one of those special players, and we've got a few of them, but we're lacking in a lot of other areas. We got run off our legs last night. We were chasing the whole night. There were blokes who didn't touch the ball or very rarely touched the ball. I mean, Durden, you had to wait
4 possessions, 1 kick.
Yeah.
Fantasia's another one.
Look, they've been getting away with doing that during the year, though. They've been getting away with that and playing the next week and batting up again. So we've accepted mediocrity and we've paid a price for it.
Yep, mediocrity is our middle name. I've gone through the 3 tall ones. The other 3 that came into the side, get your views on these guys. Adam Chera, 17 possessions, 9 kicks, 8 hand passes, 5 marks and 3 tackles. That was it, and didn't trouble the scorer. What did you make of his game?
He actually got a little bit of the ball early in the game and didn't look too bad, but then went missing. He was non-seen.
No impact really.
Which I suppose when we were going bad, he was real bad. He was getting a little bit of the ball, but no, he had very little impact on the game.
He's got no pace either. He's got no pace.
Yeah. He's got a lot of skill. He has got a lot of skill, but as you say, you put them all in a race. Cripper, Walshy, George Hewitt. Who are the others? Chera. They'd run.
Sammy Walsh.
They'd all run across the line at the same pace. They all go the same pace. None of them have got that brilliant speed. Cripper's got that ability to be able to shake opponents with his hips and put that burst of speed on. But it's not, it's not tearaway speed.
The other injury-prone prop player that came back into the side was Zach Williams. 6 kicks, 6 hand passes, didn't trouble the scorer, played in the forward line.
Yep.
Got moved down back in the last quarter.
Yeah, he sort of got shifted around. I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't there either. So
he's only kicked 1 goal in the last how many games? I don't know, but he hasn't. He got shifted to the forward line, if we remember, and it all turned out pretty well in the early stages. But in his most recent outings, he hasn't really done all that much. I wouldn't have thought. And the other one, of course, was Sam Dockerty, and he looked to me to be all at sea.
He lacked touch.
He lacked touch, and he lacked sort of the feel of the game a bit. I mean, he fumbled his first possession, but. And he ended up kicking one indiscriminately out from a full back that ended up landing in Charlie Cameron's arms, and he just snapped it around his body and kicked the goals. So, mind you, Rhys, he did fight through the game and kept going. He probably looked better as the game went on. He eventually kicked the goal in the last quarter, much to the pleasure of the Carlton supporters that were still in the ground.
Yeah, but didn't really provide.
That was when it was all over.
Whatever, yeah, exactly. And I don't know what the thinking was behind it. I think but I suppose you look at it and you think, geez, we're going to get 6 quality players back. And everyone gets a little bit excited. We all did, We thought, that's going to improve it. It's going to pick us up another 10 or 15%, which we needed to do. After the last few weeks. So,
but they're all names and reputations on paper, aren't they? They're
not
necessarily ready physically.
I thought the only way we could win the flag this year was for, I wanted Charlie back in there. But having Charlie back in there, we needed Charlie to have
Big September.
He hasn't played a good final yet. So, and he missed out on All Australian selection. You think, missing out on All Australian, where he would have, I think nearly everyone picked him to be in there because he led the goal kicking for most of the year. But also having that behind him, he'd know that he hasn't played well in finals, and I don't know. I don't know why he didn't play. Blokes.
That's because his ankle's a lot worse than just a sprain. I've got a funny feeling that he's got some serious ligament damage in that ankle. And if that was barely a sprain, he would have been right to go by now. I mean, he didn't play against St Kilda. So he would have had a month off.
It'd want to be a serious injury because, otherwise you play. I mean, we've all played with needles and different things, and the bigger the games, the more you need it, and you just you pay a price. You pay a price. You get out there, and if you can run and you can walk and get out there, and that's what you do.
There's one other person that went missing that we haven't mentioned at all.
Oh, who's that, Vince?
And I'm speaking mainly in the last quarter. For the first time this year, our senior coach decided not to be on the boundary line and go up into the box. Now, that was bizarre to me. Did you make any sense out of that? I mean, why would you do that in the last quarter? You're 40 points down. I mean, you haven't done it all year. And he just sat there and just watched the game as far as I could see.
Well, it was lost. The game was gone. I suppose he gets up there and gets a different angle of it. He gets up, talks to the other coaches, and gets a better feel of what they think about things. I got no problem with it. I would have rather him on the field, to be honest, with a blue jumper on, because he would have bloody done something anyway. Chase down a bloody robber, so he can. Our blokes can't chase down a Lockie Neal, so. There must have been a reason behind it. But why would you do that for the first time in an elimination final in the last quarter when you're 40 points down? I don't understand it. No one asked him in the press conference about it, so none of us are any wiser about it. To be perfectly honest, he's probably disgusted with the way they performed. And you get up there and you hold it in till you get him in the rooms afterwards, and
maybe
hopefully he did. From what I saw Walshy interviewed, and he did say that Voss is fairly forthright after, he said he won't say what was said, but hopefully he was, because you've got to be. And these reviews this week are the most important thing that's going to happen to the club, and they have to be honest. They have to be honest and straight between the eyes, and they need some of these blokes. I looked at the paper today, what Zach Williams is on, and you sort of start thinking, shit, had the 100 highest paid players, and he's right up there, Zach Williams. He'd be the first one I'd be going to, and you need to pull your finger out, and if you can't do it, piss off, if you don't want to do it, because we're paying you good money, and you need to perform. And that's the pressure that needs to be applied to him, and the heat has to be on.
Fair enough.
I suppose there's not much more we can really say, is there? I mean, we can't say let's look forward to next week. I think the only thing we can really say is we need a better game plan, and we need to trade out the list cloggers and get some people in that can play.
Get some pace in there. We just need blokes with pace, but play the kids too, and put them in there. We need to start playing these kids. We need to, I want to see, what's his name, Harry Lemmy, is it? I want to see him. I mean, he's got to come up next year and really start belting the door down. And
he's no guarantee of actually getting a contract, because these recruits like Lemmy, they get 2 years when they first get drafted. Now, he has been on our list for 2 years, and not once has he played a senior game, not even come close. I think the closest he's come is being named as an emergency against West Coast. So even when we only had 27 players to choose from or something, he still couldn't get a game. Now,
big blokes
players like him and Dominic Aquay and Alex Murkov and guys like that, they're probably going to be delisted more than likely, I reckon, Rhys.
Well, I'm not all that familiar because I haven't watched any of the reserves footy this year, so I'm not up to speed on
They're
where
just not doing well enough even at VFL level. Unlike Jackson Binns,
I can tell you,
Jackson Binns and guys like that who've had their 25 and 30 possessions a game and done well. The Harry Lemmys and these sorts of guys just haven't had that much of the ball even at VFL level to justify picking them, unfortunately.
I can tell you for bigger blokes, and if his body's developed and he's ready to go, I saw him over in Perth actually, and he looks like a big gangly kid still. So he needs to develop a bit more, and that will hold him in good stead. But and sometimes you can persist for 3 or 4 years with guys like that, and I'll tell you one thing. Playing in the VFL is a lot bloody harder playing as a key forward than playing AFL. You're not getting the ball out there every bloody time. So it's a little bit tougher. And you're playing on different grounds and conditions and everything. So
Yeah,
your
you're
position's a bit weaker.
You're right about the big guys. They do take longer to develop, and it'd be good to see them get an opportunity.
Tom DeConnick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's starting to really flourish.
Even Harry Mackay took it.
I'm going to say Harry Mackay, and he was struggling to get a kick in the
VFL.
In the VFL because it's not coming down the same. It's tough out there.
Yeah.
So you got to bide your time, and he might have to stack a little bit of weight on and get in the gym and get some confidence, and hopefully get a chance. But we'll wait and see.
From a systematic point of view, Rhys, can I just ask you, from what you saw last night, in terms of the way we play and our game plan and how we move the ball, what are the areas that you think? I mean, we've mentioned that we need players with more pace, yes, and we need a centre half back that can hold down a key position. I agree with all that, but in terms of how we're being coached and the way we're moving the ball, what are the areas that you've noticed that are either good or bad about our game plan?
Well, it's one game plan. It's just one game plan. It doesn't change. It's kick it down to Charlie and Harry and hope for the best. And we've got we've got gun forwards. We've got this. We've got that, and we're going to play this way. And it doesn't change. It's predictable every single week. So. And
there was a passage of play yesterday that I saw, which was an exception to that. And it was when Lewis Young took a really good mark. I think it was near the centre wing. And he could have bombed it long, but he actually took a bit off the kick. I don't know if you remember the one. I think it was, might have been the third quarter maybe. And he kicked it to George Hewitt. And George Hewitt marked it, and then he went back and kicked it through on a set shot. And I thought, hallelujah, finally someone's lowered their eyes and actually kicked the ball into the forward 50 in a way that the forward can run towards the ball with confidence. We just don't do that all that often.
Hey, we did
it against West Coast, but we haven't done it since.
There's one of those injured blokes you missed, Adam Sard.
Yeah.
He was, from what he offers and can do. I know he's sort of been in and out of the team a fair bit this year, and but we need more out of him. We need more out of him too. So he's another one who, and I think I like the way he plays, but he's got to play 22 games next year. He's got to be fit enough and ready to play the whole season. We need more players playing every single game. More of our better players. I mean, we can't have this rotation in there to the side week in, week out, and it just it kills us. We're going to have a new fitness bloke, so hopefully that even something like that can sort of spark the guys a little bit. Something, a different voice, a different maybe.
Well, they signed up Rob Innes from Sydney Swans during the week. They announced that.
Did they?
Apparently, he's the head guru, as they call him, at the Sydney Swans. Every time we recruit someone, they're a guru. Just like when we got Andrew Russell from Hawthorn, he was the guru. And he ended up being a disaster as far as I'm concerned, an overpaid disaster. But
we got the guru Mick Malthouse too, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Yeah.
Guru
Don't
Dennis
worry, the
Fagan.
PR department goes into full swing as usual and makes
We
everything
can
sound rosy.
We can destroy blokes' reputations pretty quickly these days.
Oh yeah, easy. Very good at it. David, has 2024 been a waste of a year for the football club? Do you think?
Yeah, it has. And it will. You know, every year we go. We we finished a match, outside of grand final last year, and we're really looking at at least playing in a grand final. So
and finishing top four.
That's where it sits, and to be perfectly honest, our injury toll was just horrific. It was just it just never stopped. It's like one of those sicknesses you just can't shake. It just kept coming back, and there was another injury, and then same blokes are getting in and out, and it just but
does that camouflage? Does that camouflage some systemic problems though? Because people tend to resort to giving that as an excuse for our non-performance.
I really wouldn't call it systemic problems, because if you've got the base of our team out there week in, week out, our goal to goal line intact, and our midfield, I mean, you can cop an injury here and there. Every team's going to get injuries. You cop them, but no, we were copping too many, and too many of the same stuff. It was all soft tissue injuries. It was whether we're recruiting the wrong type of people, whether it is the training that they did pre-season, or I mean, that's what they've gone through, and they've decided to get rid of Andrew Russell. So that's the first step in it, I suppose, and then we'll see next year whether these blokes can stand up. But if we can have our team out there, and just to pick from week in, week out, and then have that selection integrity to get rid of blokes who are not playing well, sack them, put them in the bloody twos. Doesn't matter who it is. We've all played twos, and all had to, either coming back from injuries or whatever. But they I remember Jezza. I come back from my broken jaw after Williams, and he said, "No, I'm going to give you." I said, "I'm right to play," and he said, "Oh." He said, "I'm not playing you in the seniors," and I said, "What do you mean?" I said, I've done my time. He said, no, I want to see you get through a match in the twos first. And I reckon the first 5 minutes, I went to dive on a ball, and a bloke come through and kicked me straight in the bloody jaw, and it held together. And I'd taken the wires and things out myself a week before.
Dr. Rhys.
Well, at the Brandon Hotel, it was a good place to do those sort of things. But so I mean, and it stayed intact, and off you go, sort of thing. And I knew I was right, but I just wanted to come back a week before Williams come back from his suspension, because I wanted to make sure playing footy back before he was. But
now you're doing functions at the Yarraville Hotel with him and all that sort of thing.
Then bloody Jezza, doesn't. At least I played, but. Yeah, Jezza didn't allow me to play in the seniors. But anyway, that's part and parcel of it. I mean, you accept that. You don't sort of say, I'm not a seconds player or whatever. You just go out, prove your fitness, prove your,
Well, even back in your day, Rhys, David Parkin, Robert Walls, coaches like that, I think that they used to identify a player. If the team wasn't playing well, they would literally pick out a big name that wasn't playing well and drop them, and that would send shockwaves through the rest of the team to up their game.
Well, you can quite often feel comfortable otherwise.
It happened very often, and sometimes to put in a young kid that clearly wasn't going to be the same replacement for a big name, but that wasn't the point. Just like you've been pointing out all year, sometimes you need to drop a big name to make a statement, and bring in a young kid who's been performing in the VFL and give him a chance, and that makes all the other players honest. It keeps them honest, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we didn't even have to drop big names this year. No. I mean, anyone, just drop someone. Just drop someone. Put a Bins in. Put a Ashton Moore. I mean, I knew nothing about Ashton Moore until a couple of weeks ago, and I've gone, Jesus Christ, this kid can play. He's got some real tricks. And why we haven't seen him and why he got dropped this week, they're the questions that have got to be asked. And if I was on the recruiting staff there, I'd be saying, well, shit, we're picking these players and
you're not playing them.
Ability and everything, and you're not playing them. What's the bloody?
I reckon he would have done better than what Corey Durden did with 1 kick and 3 hand passes for the match. He would have at least given us that.
Exactly, yeah. And he can move. He's got a motor too. Like he can run. He's got sticky fingers. He's got goal sense. He's he could be a real find. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play a lot of footy next year. And we just got to find him.
Anyway, gents, let's move on to our votes. So let's put them up. David?
Yeah, I've gone with Georgie Hewitt. I thought was he was consistent all night. I thought he was in there and doing a lot of the hard work too, and a lot of defensive work. He does a lot of that defensive work in the midfield and in that contested ball stuff. So he gets the 3 votes there, just ahead of Paddy Cripps. And as I said before, I'm under Nada over, Cripp is always going to have a go. So, he just through, it wasn't his greatest game, but he slots into 2 votes there. But the 3rd vote was a flip of the corner, could have been one of 5 or 6 because, and it's not, I'd rather not give a vote there. And I think when that's the only good thing I like about the voting structure of the best and fairest.
You don't have to give votes.
Yeah, which in this game, that 3rd vote wouldn't be given to anyone. But Sammy Walsh, I thought, got the ball enough and seemed to try hard enough, but anyone else could have got it.
Vince?
Yes, look, I went for Patrick Cripps for my 3 votes. As Rhys said, it wasn't the best game he's ever played, but, the first half you wouldn't be giving votes to anybody, frankly. But it was almost symbolic that it was him that kicked the first goal that finally got us on the scoreboard after 24 minutes in the second quarter. He continued to be part of scoring opportunities throughout the night for us, and he kept working his backside off. And I could have gone for George Hewitt, but in the end, I thought Cripps had more influence over our second half resurgence, if you want to call it that. George Hewitt also performed very well. I gave him 2 votes. Got a lot of the ball. 17 kicks, 16 hand passes, laid 3 tackles and kicked the goal, as did Cripps. And Blake Acres, I gave my 1 vote. He also kicked the goal, got 25 possessions and worked very hard down his wing, despite the fact that he looked like he had a bung shoulder as well. And he got that pretty early in the game. But he kept battling on manfully, and I gave him my 1 vote. And I think he's been one of our better players for the year, Blake Acres.
Okay, well, I've given, like David, I thought George Hewitt was easily our best player on the ground. I gave 2 votes to Nick Newman. I thought he played quite well. He showed a bit of mongrel, even when things were sort of going against us. He tried to fly the flag. And 1 point to our captain. So, and we don't have anything like a leaderboard because there's only 1 game. So,
and by the way, I want to just give a little mention as well.
Not a Cheerio, Vince? Not a Cheerio?
No, not a Cheerio.
No, not a Cheerio. Okay.
No, I'm talking about the votes here. I really thought Lewis Young was one of our better players on the night. He took 9 marks. He was close to getting a vote from me. He didn't quite do enough to get a vote, but I thought he was definitely in our top 5 players on the ground, and I just thought it was worth giving him a mention, as I'd like to give Tom De Conning a mention for also battling on very manfully once he came onto the ground.
I thought he did very well. Okay, it is now time for David to give his Spirit of Carlton Award, and this week it goes to
Nick Newman. And it's funny because I I'll just go through a little text here that Vince sent me. I'm a bit surprised you went for Newman as your Spirit of Carlton Award winner. I thought you might have gone for either De Conning or even Young, both who performed well under the circumstances. See you tonight.
That's why I gave my.
I wrote back to Vince. Newman caused a bit of shit out there and hit Neil with a good elbow forearm. That's about all I could go on. Something I would do in the same circumstances. So, look, he's a good footballer. He stirs them up out there. He has a go. At least he does something. And I just thought, even when, there are a couple of little spot fires early on, and he was in amongst it every single time, and you just do something, and he was prepared to make his mark on the game anyway.
And how appropriate that a former Sydney Swans player who came to Carlton, like another bloke called David Rhys-Jones that I know.
I thought you were talking about Greg Williams then.
Yeah. No, well, he started at Carlton, then went to Sydney, and then back to Carlton. But and I think he went through Geelong as well along the way. But no, Nick Newman and George Hewitt are the only current players on our list that came via the Sydney Swans. But obviously, you like a bit of the mongrel in Nick Newman. He doesn't mind standing up to them and giving them a bit of physicality, a bit like your good self, Rhys.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know. You
got to fly the flag in some ways.
Well, not so much fly the flag. Someone's got to start it, I suppose. So I wasn't bad at that, and he does a bit of that himself. So keep him honest. It
was never your fault, David.
No, I only pled guilty once in the tribunal. They give me 4 weeks, so I never played guilty again. But after then, it was never my fault.
Never your fault. Hey, David, thanks very much for giving us some time on a Sunday night. We know you've got family, and we really appreciate you coming on. As do I was going to say the listeners, but I don't know what you call them. Subscribers, I guess. Viewers, subscribers in this age.
And members of the Jumper Funds channel, no doubt.
So, David, hopefully Vince will be on the show next week. I won't be, but if you've got some time, I'm sure Vince would love to have a word with you about. We'll tell the viewers what we're going to be discussing in the next few weeks. So, thanks a lot, David, and we'll see you on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I'll catch you for a coffee on Tuesday, Joe. And
by the way, Rhys, before we go, we normally preview the following match and who we think is going to win and all that. Now our season's over. Let's just quickly get your tips on the two semi-finals while we're at it. The first one is on Friday night. Port Adelaide got absolutely smashed by Geelong on Thursday night. They come up. They get obviously the double chance, so they get another chance at home again against the high-flying Hawks, who are absolutely taking all before them at the moment. So who are you going to tip for that one?
I'm going to tip the Hawks, and they've had another injury, which has been
a pretty bad one too.
Yeah, Frost, who's pretty as a fullback, he doesn't allow Sicily to really get around the ground. So that's a big blow for him, and Will Day will probably still be out as well. So it's going to be tough going across there. I just didn't like the way Port Adelaide played. I think they'll bounce back, but the way they played and the way Butters went off the ground, that was very soft, I thought. And he didn't want to be out there. He got a hit in the rib and couldn't get off the ground quick enough and jumped off a sinking ship. So I think they've got their problems. They can't win at Port, but I'll go for Port though. I think they'll be a bit too strong. Only because I
thought you were going for Hawthorn there about a minute ago.
Well, I was starting to go that way, and then the injury. To be perfectly honest, the injury to Frost is going to
it's a big one.
Really hurt him. And it's going.
Mind you, I don't think Port will go with Charlie Dixon again. He was next to useless. No. I reckon they might bring back Marshall this week.
Well, that's it. But the other bloke's been pretty good down there. I'm trying to think of his name now.
Radagalia.
No, geez, I wouldn't give.
Alia.
Oh, you're talking about Georgiadis. Georgiadis,
Georgiadis has been pretty good. So I think him being the one out down there, I think and if Sicily has to go to him, Sicily will have to play a negative type game, which is really just going to upset them. So it's not going to help them at all. So I'm going on Port Adelaide just through some injuries.
Okay.
And
And what about
GWS?
the other final? GWS versus the Brisbane Lions over there. Well, I think it's going to be at GWS's home ground.
Yeah, it
or
is.
Are they going to play it at the SCG?
Well, it's in Sydney either way.
It'll be in Western Sydney, but
I think if Carlton had have beaten Brisbane, I think they were talking about having it at the SCG because there wouldn't have been enough seats at the Giants' home stadium. But because it's against Brisbane, I think they're going to leave it there.
Yeah. Anyway,
who do you think? So who do you think will win that one?
I think GWS. I think I picked in about the first 2 minutes of the last quarter that they were going to get beat because they went negative. They just didn't. They just didn't. They didn't want to score. They put the
tried
cue
to
on
save the game.
Exactly, and this is 2 minutes into the first, 2 or 3 minutes into the final quarter, and they put the cue on the rack, and they're not going to score anymore. And I'm just thinking this is crazy. And the Swans are too good a team to do that to. They need to put more scoreboard pressure on, and they just went into their shells. And hopefully they've learnt from that because they're not going to go very far otherwise. But I think they'll be too good for the Lions, and the Lions waste a lot of chances too. They don't do themselves any favour, but they have big lapses in games, and they've done a lot this year, the Lions, and I just think,
mind you, Adam Kingsley, the coach of GWS, also pointed out that GWS themselves have had big lapses. He pointed out a few games recently, and also he pointed out the game that they had against Carlton, where we got off to a flying start in the first quarter. He said we're often playing only 3 quarters in the game, and we're having a big lapse in 1 quarter, which is letting the opposition either win the game or at least getting off to a big start against us. And even if you look at that game against Sydney on the weekend, they had chances, including in the last quarter, to put the game to bed, and they just missed pretty easy shots on some occasions. So they almost were as bad as Brisbane are.
I really thought it was their attitude. They just went out with a bit of a save the game attitude, and you could pick that up really early in the piece. They're just going too slow and grabbing the ball. They weren't moving it like they were previously. I mean, why would you change what's working?
What's working? Yeah.
I mean, the game is at NG Stadium too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for that,
GWS.
All right. Well, thanks, David. We'll see you next week.
Guys. All right.
See you Tuesday.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.
Go Blues in 2025 anyway.
I got rid of him. He was saying
no more
something.
Blues for 2024, that's for sure.
Well, the females, they won today by a point.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Carlton PR machine will make big news out of that. A little bit like they did. There's one thing I got right, Joe. In the last quarter, as soon as Sam Doherty kicked his goal, I said, you watch, there'll be a media release about this. There'll be some sort of article on the Carlton website, and bingo, within half an hour, it was up there.
Yeah, Patrick, I did cut Rhys off. It is very frank. Anyway, Vince, there were 3 other games.
There were some very one-sided games and one very, very close one, which probably saved the weekend for the AFL, to be frank. The first couple were pretty much over in almost half a game. As you can see there, Geelong, well, you cannot underestimate this side, can you? And Chris Scott, often touted as the best coach in the AFL, got them to play a brilliant brand of football over there at Adelaide, and they blew Port Adelaide out of the water. 20 goals, 18, 138 to Port, who embarrassed themselves in front of their home crowd, 7-12-54, an 84-point drubbing. And you can't blame Ken Hinkley for just saying, well, we've just got to move on quickly from this and put it behind us, because otherwise, if we dwell on it too much, it'll just keep us depressed. So I think that's the only way to go, is to say, look, put it behind us. We're just now got to prepare for a brand new opponent. We've earned the double chance, and they do get another chance this week. And Rhys reckons that they can come back and win. I personally don't. I think Hawthorn will still win this game.
Friday night,
Western Bulldogs favourites to win, and yet again disappointed their fans. That's their 5th elimination final loss in 10 years, apparently. Hawthorn 14-15-99, same score as Brisbane Lions got. Defeated the Western Bulldogs 9-8-62. Very disappointing for them, and they're out.
And then the game
Saturday,
before ours?
Yes, was the cliffhanger at the SCG. What an exciting game it was. The Sydney Swans storming back in the last quarter. How was that mark from Isaac Heaney? My God, that was exciting. 13 goals, 10-88 to GWS 12-10-82, and they just got run over in the end. And, of course, our game was the fourth of the finals. So
we know that one.
Really, the only really exciting one was the one on Saturday afternoon. All the other night finals were pretty one-sided in the end.
So, Vince, you know what it's time for?
Time for our predictions for next week. Oh, we're going to go to this already, are we?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to make our predictions for next week, or is that after this?
I will do it. I didn't think of it, but we can do it after.
Okay, righto.
We didn't do predictions for this week.
Well, Joe,
so.
I've got a few little things I want to mention in my verdict this week. And rather than making big, bold statements, I want to ask a whole series of questions.
Here we go.
The first area I want to ask questions about is about Carlton. And I actually want our viewing audience to join in on this and give us your thoughts and send a comment, express your views and opinions on our comment section, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube. Can Carlton win the 2025 premiership?
But Vince, this is not a verdict.
No. Hang on. I will give you my verdict. I'm asking the question. I just want to get our viewers involved. What needs to change? What needs to improve for us to be contenders for a premiership in 2025? For starters, that means probably having to finish in the top four, which is what we were told by the club was the aim this year. To finish in the top four, to give us at least a fighting chance to win a flag and at least make a grand final. Can we do it with the current senior coach? And what about the assistants that are helping that senior coach in Michael Voss? Do we keep Michael Voss, or does he need to be moved on? Do we need to move on any of the assistants and replace them with other people? Or do you think that the coaching team is pretty right as it is? And what about other people in the football department? We've just seen a change to our high performance manager, strength and conditioning coach. Andrew Russell's out. Rob Innes is in, so hopefully that'll be an improvement for us. He comes across with a very good reputation from the Sydney Swans. What about anyone else in the football department? Are you happy with Brad Lloyd as our football manager? Any other changes that you think? I personally think that there has to be a series of changes across the club for us to be able to contend. It's not just one thing that's going to fix it. Clearly, we're going to have to be very active in the trade period, and we're going to have to be very active in the drafting of young talent into the club. I'm looking forward to having some father-sons that will join us in the next year or two. Obviously, the Camporeale twins, I think, are the first cabs off the rank. We'll need to get some draft picks in to be able to use to recruit those boys. But they're not going to be the be-all and end-all, but they certainly will add some excitement around the place. And
Vince, we're going to be here. We're going to be here for an hour with this question.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are. B.
Joe, let me finish. All right. So that's the question I have. I personally don't think that the way we're going under the coaches that we've got and with the game plan we've got, even if we were to recruit some good players, I think there still seems to be a systemic problem at the club. I just don't see us winning a premiership next year. I hope I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. Second point I want to make. Mark of the year and goal of the year. We saw Jeremy Cameron kick what would have to be the goal of the year on Thursday night against Port Adelaide, and yet it's not going to be included. Why? Because it's in a final. The mark of the year should be the Isaac Heaney mark on Saturday afternoon. The one he took which was an
you
absolutely specky and a half. Now, these marks...
Can't say that. Can't say that.
Goals are not... Well, come on. They'd have to be a contender at least. But they're not
but
even
there's
going
3
to be
games
included.
I agree, but there's 3 games to go. Who knows that Jeremy Cameron might take a better mark?
I'm just saying that these are the sorts of goals and marks that should be included in calculations, but they don't even take these goals and marks into account at all. They don't even consider them. They basically cut it off at the end of the home and away season, and that's it. Yeah, I think that's wrong.
Oh, they consider finals into the next year. I agree with you. But why do they do it, Vince? Because on Brownlow Medal Night, which is the Monday before the grand final, they announce the goal of the year. So maybe what they should say is we don't count the goal of the year in the grand final, or you move the Brownlow Medal. But I don't know. I agree with you.
Why does it have to be adjudicated at the Brownlow Medal? What's mark of the year and goal of the year got to do with the Brownlow Medal?
Well, when do you want to announce it? Do you just have a press release from the AFL? Is that what you're saying?
Well, why can't you announce these things after the grand final? That's what I'm
asking you. Yeah, so just a press release.
Well, it doesn't even have to be. But can actually be a press conference, and the players there that receive it, like the old World of Sport days. You know, they used to get cards given to them and all sorts of things for mark of the year and goal of the year. But anyway, they don't do it. So I think that's wrong. I don't know what other people think. Today I noticed that Carlton won their AFLW match against the Gold Coast Suns up at Mackay. And the goal that won the game was one that was going to be awarded as touched by the goal umpire in the end. In consultation with the field umpires, they decided, no, we won't trust any of our judgment. We're going to go to this brand new technology called goal assist technology. I'll tell you what, it certainly did assist, all right. It came back with an adjudication that it was a goal, and no one will know whether it was or wasn't, or what technology that they used to determine this, because they're not sharing it with anybody. Now,
no, they reckon they've got something in the ball. They're trialing it.
Yeah, but they're not sharing any of this information with the public, or with the players, or with the coaches, or anybody. So we've just got to take these people's words for it that they've got the adjudication correct. I just reckon any system like that is open to not only abuse and potentially, all sorts of other things, but I don't think it gives anyone any confidence that's watching the game. I didn't like it. I don't think that we should have a system where we've just got to trust somebody to tell us what the answer is.
Are you 100% sure sharing it with the coaches and the players?
No, what I'm saying is that no one gets shown anything as a result of this technology.
How do you know? Can you put your hand?
At that time that they tell us, they say, "Oh, we've been told it's a goal." So then the field umpire then tells the goal umpire and does this. It's a goal, and we've all just got to trust it. I don't like it. I know what everyone else thinks. It's all a matter of opinion. I personally don't like it.
How do you know the coaches?
Engender any confidence in anybody?
How do you know the coaches don't see it?
Yet again, because the AFL won't invest into goal line technology, right? Because it's AFLW. They've done it to some extent with the men's competition, but the women's competition is not worthy of any of this stuff in the eyes of the AFL. So
I got a comment for you.
Who watches AFLW anyway? Oh yeah. Don't worry, it'll eventually come into the men's game too, and we'll have to trust all of that too. That's a bit like trusting voting machines in the American election. Anyway, the other thing I just wanted to point out, which will be a verdict from me, I don't know about everyone else out there. You can have your own opinions, but I think the whole welcome to country thing is done. To me, it is just so unnecessary, and I don't think anyone wants it anymore. Everyone about it says the same thing. Oh, just drives me bananas. Why we have to continue to go through all this. And the other thing is this, it's no longer what it used to be. Now these guys, these uncles that they call them, are now introducing all sorts of other things. Did you see the one that was doing the Brisbane Carlton game? Now, when I clap my hands 3 times, I want you all to say this and all. Like, seriously, do you welcome to country? Welcome us all into the country that we live in and we're born in. Okay? I personally don't feel I need to be welcomed. I don't need to be welcomed into my own country, but these people feel like they have to do that. Get on with it, finish it up quickly, and piss off. Because frankly, none of us want to hear it anymore. I'm over it. It's rubbish. But of course, the woke FL, they continue to do it, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Take my word for it. All of this stuff, the minute it gets started, it won't stop because it's never, ever enough. All of this stuff, it's never enough until you actually give back every title that you own. That's my view. If you really feel strongly about this stuff, give back the title on your house to all of these people. Give it back. And if you're not prepared to give the title to your house or your factory or your land, whatever you own, unless you're prepared to give it back to them, shut the hell up and get out of our lives.
Hang on.
That's my view. Anyway, that's my verdict for the week.
Vince, run for politics and make them change.
Thanks, Jimmy Raptors. Too late for me, mate. I'm too old for that.
Anyway, so that's Vince's verdict. No bet of the week, Vince, because you lost all our money.
No, we lost all the money. We'll just predict next week's games. What do you reckon, Joe?
Let's do that.
What do you think? Friday night, Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval.
I'm going for Hawthorn.
Yeah, I think Hawthorn's looking the goods. I think I can just envisage a Sydney Swans versus Hawthorn preliminary final. How exciting would that be? They might as well call it the Buddy Franklin Cup. That would be a huge game. In basically, now those two teams used to have fantastic grand finals going back to 2012, 2014. Huge rivalry over many years now, Sydney and Hawthorn. So I can see that happening. I think Port Adelaide, it's going to be too much of a mountain to climb after all the injuries they had last week and coming off an 84-point drubbing. I don't know. I think if they lose this, there'll have to be big question marks on whether Ken Hinkley will continue into next year. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
And the next game?
Saturday is, of course, GWS versus the Brisbane Lions in Western Sydney. So no finals in Melbourne in week 2, Joe. None at all.
And I'm going GWS.
And you're going to be here in Melbourne while those finals are taking place everywhere else in the country. So you're going GWS. Yeah, look, I think also GWS should. I mean, they only just lost that game against Sydney. On their home ground, I think they'll probably be too strong for Brisbane, who don't travel quite as well. I mean, they tend to play a lot better at their home ground at the Gabba, but they've had their final. They won't play another final at home, Brisbane. So they'll have to try and do it the hard way. But the following week, I think it'll end up being a Geelong versus GWS prelim. That should be a beauty as well.
Who's going to win? Oh, well, we can do the predictions.
No, we'll do that next. Well, you're not going to be here, are you? So what do you
I'll send them in for you, Vince. I'll send them in.
Okay.
So, Vince, that brings us to the end of the show. Just quickly, don't forget to watch the boys on the Jumper Punch Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. Also, Forever Rivals on Wednesday night. And our good friend DJ Rash on Thursday night with the Change Room. And we will be back next Sunday night. I'll try and make a quick guest appearance. But if not...
We'll either have Rash or Paul or someone like that hosting along with me next Sunday, seeing you're going to be occupied. So,
yes.
Yeah, hopefully you can make a quick appearance wherever you might be.
I will. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. If you're on Facebook, you can go to either at Blue Sunday or at the Jumper Punch. And if you are watching us on Facebook, please subscribe to us at the Jumper Punch. So
and don't forget, as you mentioned before with Rhys, what we are going to do in these last 3 weeks is briefly, and I mean briefly, review the finals that have been taking place. So we'll have 2 finals to review next week. We don't think the show will go for much more than about an hour at the absolute maximum. It might even be less than that, but say up to an hour. So we'll actually review the 2 semi-finals. The following week, we'll review the prelim finals. And in our final week, we will review the grand final. And next week, what we're going to start doing is reviewing the performances of the Carlton players who played senior football this year. So with Rhys, we'll get his views on the player and whether he performed well, not well, what he needs to change, what he needs to improve on, and we'll also get his opinion on whether that player should be continued on with, or whether it should be traded or delisted or anything like that. So, or offered a new contract. So we'll review the whole Carlton senior list over the next 3 weeks. We might do about a dozen players per week.
We'll do. All right, so that brings us to the end of the show. So from me, it's a good night, and from Vince, it's a
ciao, arrivederci, and goodbye to Carlton until next year.
2025. All right, bye all. Bye all.
All right, we're done. Are we?